Hello, I'm Stu. Welcome back to SMS Electrical Testing. In the last video, I introduced the Seaward Apollo 500 Plus. The screen wasn't particularly visible in the last video, so I've zoomed in, and this time I'm going to pat test some Class 1 items, show you how it's done. So the first item I'm going to test is the actual red lead that comes with the Apollo, and it's a dead easy, simple thing to show you for the first time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug the lead into the tester. I'm going to plug the other end of the IEC lead into the IEC port on the tester. I've already fired up the Apollo 500 Plus. I'm going to go straight for F1, which is pat testing. I'm going to go for auto pat. Now we're on the pat testing screen. I'm going to give this an asset ID. I've got some asset stickers here. I'm going to give the pat lead that comes with the machine 0001. We'll scroll down. It's on the setting that we had last time, the 4-way lead. That's obviously not appropriate for this device. So I'm going to scroll up and down the lead now until I find a IEC lead. 0.1 ohm, 500 volts, and it also does the insulation resistance test. So we'll say OK to that. I need to type in the name of a site, so I'm going to type in home. Not bothered about a location. Location 1 is fine. Visual inspection I'm going to leave at 6 months, and a retest I'm going to leave at 12 months. So now we will hit the tick button. I've already done a visual inspection on this. Say pass all, because I know that it's correct. It's brand new. It's got the right fuse in. We're just going to say pass all. It's now going to go ahead and do a continuity test. 0.02 ohms, that's fine. And an insulation resistance test. It's over 19.9 megohms. The priority is good. So this cable has passed. I can put some information on here if I want to. I can lead comes with tester. And we'll save. And that's done. It doesn't look like it's actually done anything at this stage, but that's because it quickly moves on to the next test. If you want to go back to the previous test and see what the results were, you can go to home, you can go to the results page here, and you can go to view data, number 1. Here is site 1, location 1. That was from last week's video. We've got home location 1, which is the one I've just done. We'll say OK onto that one. And then we've got item 0001. I haven't put the sticker on it yet, but I will do. And we'll say, we'll click the green tick. And we can see now that all the test status, all the test information has passed. Unplug the lead. Move that out of the way. Bring this into frame. Got a little mini sharp here. So test date, we can say 1/2025. It's got my name on it. It's got the asset tag on it. It's got my details on it. In the 5th edition, you don't specify the suggested date of the next retest, because now that is all done based on risk assessments. That is now my first item pat tested. So the next item I'm going to pat test is a kettle. Everyone always does a kettle. Every video on YouTube is a kettle. It's a fairly standard kettle. It's a 2-piece with a base and a plastic enclosure. You might think it's class 2 because it's plastic, but it's not. It's definitely class 1. So first I'm going to do a visual inspection of the lead, the plug, and the kettle itself. I've had a look around the kettle. No water in it, thankfully. The pins look okay. There's no obvious damage or burning. That looks okay. Same with the base. I'm going to check the fuse. According to the plug, it's 10 amp at 250 volts. So I would expect this, if it was a little bit older, to have either a 10 amp fuse, or if it's newer, to have a 13 amp fuse. Let's have a look. It is a 10 amp fuse. That's fine for this appliance. If I was replacing it, of course, I would replace it with a 13 amp fuse next time. Now I've done my visual inspection, I'm going to plug it into the meter itself. Before I actually run the test, I'm just going to look at the rating plate at the bottom, and we can see it's 1850 to 2200 watts. So at 240 volts, that is less than 10 amps, so it is only a low wattage kettle. So the 10 amp fuse in this case is appropriate. On the test meter itself, if we zoom in, to the screen. Like before, I'm going to give it an asset ID. This time I'm going to give it asset ID 0030. The test is still on the lead test from last time, so what I need to do is we'll go for a class 1 500 volts insulation resistance test. There are no electronics inside here or anything sensitive that is going to get upset with 500 volts, so 500 is fine. We're at home again, location 1. I've done a visual inspection here. I'm going to go across to the voltage and the power rating. Now the maximum power rating on the plate, if you remember, was 2200 watts. And the fuse was 10 amps. And of course, all this is important to be recorded. So I'm going to say pass. And of course, it fails straight away. And you might wonder why it fails. That's because it's a class 1 appliance and you need to have the Wonder lead. So what we're going to do is we're going to plug the red lead in. Just in case you're about to scream at the comments to say you've missed out the lead, just wanted to show what happens if you do miss out the lead. For a kettle or anything like this, crocodile clip on the end, I'm going to put that on the inside, like so. And then that now has a connection to the only exposed metal part on this appliance, which of course is the element, and that goes back to the tester. So now if we rerun the test, we get a much more favourable reading of 0.09 ohms. Of course, it's going to do the insulation resistance test, and that's passed as well. One thing to note, when you're testing appliances like this, they must always be switched on for the insulation test to work. Now that the test is completed, I can put some items here. I can put some notes about what the item is, so we can just say it's a kettle, and we'll click save. And of course, that takes us back to the asset ID screen. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my sticker, 30 for this one. So test date 1/2025, like so. And of course, this goes on the plug. And this item has passed its test. The final item I'm going to pat test today is this electric heater. Sort of thing you might have here in the UK, fairly common at this time of year. First of all, I'm going to check the plug, I'm going to check the lead. It's got a bit of paint on it, but that's okay. I would check, everything seems okay here. I'm going to check the fuse. It says on the fuse here that it's a 13 amp fuse, so we'll take the top off, and indeed it's a brown 13 amp fuse. The wiring inside the plug is okay, no signs of damage. If we turn the heater over to the other side, we'll see that it has a maximum wattage of 2000 watts. You can see that on the rating plate here. Now I've done my visual inspections. I'm going to turn the heater around because of course the heater needs to be switched on while we do these tests. So I want to make sure that the switches are on here, and I want to try and find some exposed metal work in order to connect my test probe. There's some screws up here, so I'm going to use those. We'll plug the heater into the pat tester as so. This time I'm going to give it asset ID 0031. Class 1 again, no sensitive electronics, so we can continue with a 500 volts test. We're at home again, that's fine. Okay, I've done a visual inspection of the plug, the enclosure, the switch. It's 230 volts. The power rating, as we saw before on the rating plate, was 2000 watts. And it has a 13 amp fuse. Last thing to do is to try and find some exposed metal work to probe the wandering lead here. So there's an exposed screw here, so I'm going to probe onto that. We'll run the test. 0.09 and above 19.99 megohms. So the test has passed. We'll call this a heater and click save. all that's left for me to do is to put the test sticker on the plug. Thanks very much for watching my quick video on Class 1 pat testing with the Seawood pat tester. Next time I'm going to be doing Class 2 devices here on the bench. So until then, thanks for watching.